Let's talk about the stadium rumors that have swept the fan base the last 24 hours about the Browns potentially relocating for 2 to 3 seasons while the team rebuilds their stadium. Welcome into the Cleveland Browns Report by Chat Sports. I'm your host, Matthew Peterson, and we're going to run through all the latest reports out there about the Browns potentially relocating amid a rebuild. So, some background information to serve as a bit of a primer before we start jumping into all the quotes and whatnot. The NEOTrans Blog, that is the Northeast Ohio Transformation Blog, reported that a major stadium announcement is coming soon. Now, the Browns are reportedly rebuilding their stadium and the lakefront area surrounding it, according to the NEOTrans Blog. Now, just before we started filming, a conflicting report came in from WKYC that said the Browns are not going to be moving during this potential rebuild. So, we're going to recap all the latest buzz out there and break it down for you on today's show. Let's jump into the NEOTrans Blog, which is written by Ken Prendergast, who had this to say at the start of his article, and we'll work from top to bottom. Cleveland Browns owners Dee and Jimmy Haslam, Cleveland Mayor Justin Bibb, and Berea Mayor Cyril Kleem, Cuyahoga County Executive Chris Ronayne, and others are due to make one or more big announcements starting next week that will include the lakefront football stadium, the Browns Berea campus, mixed-use developments around both, plus a relocated Shoreway. So, my initial reaction to just the first paragraph is, that's awesome, right? I would love to see an improved stadium, but more importantly, I would love to see the surrounding area get some nice TLC, right? Make a bridge from where the stadium is to the downtown area and not have it just be this brown stadium that looks like it hasn't been, well, it's been built in an area that hasn't been touched in almost 100 years, and there's just barren parking lots and kind of leftover industrial sites, but no bars or restaurants or things for fans to do after or before the game. So I'm all for developing the surrounding area. Now, in the NEOTrans Blog, you had a bunch of pictures. I'm not quite sure where these pictures are from exactly, if they are leaked from the reported plans, but I think we can all agree that looks a lot cooler than the current layout that the Browns are working with. So I am all for developing the surrounding area and improving the current stadium. I don't know who would be against that other than the argument of, well, how much is it going to cost me, the taxpayer? And that's a very fair argument for those of you that live in the, Cleveland city limits and the surrounding areas to make. Now, we're going to get to the rest of this video in just a second, but I am trying to grow this channel to get more viewers, get a bigger audience, and get you guys more content. And the best way to do that is not just subscribing and liking the video, but also sharing it. So sending it to a friend, sending it to a family member, or sharing it to Twitter, tagging me at Matthew Petey, and I give shout-outs every couple of days to those of you who share our videos on Twitter. Getting back to the article now. Ken also said the Browns still want a new stadium, but the $2 billion to $3 billion cost and lack of political support for spending that much has produced what one source called an impasse between the city. So the Haslams, the Bibb, and Ronayne administrations and others will instead pursue financing for a major rebuilding of the existing football venue on the lakefront that could cost in excess of $1 billion. So, second reaction here is, AKA, there will be no dome. Now, apparently the Browns, well, really just Jimmy Haslam, really wants a dome stadium, but he is not going to get the support he needs, AKA the moolah, from the city to get that done, and he does not want to pony up and pay for all that himself. We see this quite often, right? When the Vikings got their new stadium, the team almost threatened to move if the city did not help in and pitch in to build a new stadium. So a dome would be awesome. I used to be anti-dome, but after the Saints game, I reversed my course. Because if a team from New Orleans can come to Cleveland in December and beat the Browns at their own game in negative 30 degrees, then what's the point of playing outdoors if you're not actually better at it against Southern teams? So what could a new stadium or new area look like around? Look at this awesome, man-made bridge, if you will. A pedestrian bridge is the word I'm looking for, connecting where the stadium is to the rest of the downtown area. Right now, it's just not that viable to be a walker and get from the stadium before or after the game and go to everything towards downtown. But this bridge right here, I don't know, looks pretty cool to me. It would definitely spice up the stadium and give it some very much needed, I don't know, eye candy, if you will. So let me know, do you want a dome stadium? Give me a Y for yes or N for no. Sound off in the comment section below. Getting back to more from the article from the NEOTrans Blog. During the renovation of the CrossCountry Mortgage Campus, the Browns offseason training programs may have to be relocated for up to 1 year. Expansion of the campus will take longer, more than 1 year, and may be carried out in phases depending on financing and city approvals. The expanded campus will reportedly include a new hotel, restaurants, shops, conference facilities. Now, some basically rich NFL owners right now are buying in on this trend of let's build mini cities surrounding our new stadium and facilities. We've seen a couple of teams get sold or relocated recently. The Rams, for example, right? Moved to LA. What do? Build the greatest stadium the U.S. has ever seen so much with SoFi. The Raiders moved to Vegas, and they build a state-of-the-art facility. The list goes on and on. I mean, the Cowboys, for example, they've got the Star in Frisco, which is about 30 minutes north of the city, and it has bars and restaurants, and it is own pretty much mini city for the Cowboys. The Chicago Bears, they are reportedly looking into moving to Arlington Heights, a suburb in Chicago, and they want to build their own mini Chicago Bears kingdom with bars and restaurants. That is the new trend for super rich owners that have the means to do it, is we don't just want a stadium, but we want to control everything around the stadium, right? We wanted a piece of that pie of restaurants and bars and parking. We don't want to just own the stadium and the city is collecting all the cash and all the local private businesses surrounding it are getting all the money pregame and postgame. We want that to be ours, right? The Raiders built a state-of-the-art facility. So this is the new trend in direction. I know the Broncos recently sold to the Waltons. That's the Walmart family. The Commanders just sold. You can expect both of those teams to start having some rumors of, should we build a new stadium? And while we're doing it, let's also control all the restaurants and bars and hotels and facilities around it so that we are the ones raking in all the cash from people profiting off of our team. That is the new trend for super rich owners. Couldn't be the Ravens, couldn't be the Bengals. But make sure, by the way, you are subscribed this offseason. The NFL draft is, 10 days away right now? I want to reach 19,000 subscribers beforehand. We are 618 subs away. So if you're looking for a go-to Cleveland Browns offseason YouTube channel, you have found the right spot. More from this latest report. Then, starting as early as 2026 and continuing for 2 to 3 football seasons, depending on funding from public and private sources, the Haslams seek to rebuild Cleveland Browns Stadium so thoroughly that a source said it won't look like anything like it does now. That means the Browns will play for 2 to 3 seasons at another location. And this is where we reach the point of the video where you might be wondering what the heck is going on. This sucks. Flat out, it would suck if the Browns had to move to Columbus or somewhere else for 2 to 3 seasons. Yes, a new /renovated /remodeled /completely rebuilt stadium, whatever you want to call it, is awesome. It's cool. I'm all for developing the area around it. That's a great plan and vision. But 2 to 3 seasons elsewhere, if this is true, which we have a conflicting report we're going to look at in just a moment, that would blow chunks. That would absolutely suck. I understand it might be worth it in the long haul, but I would still hate those 2 to 3 seasons of watching the Browns play at the Columbus Crew Stadium. Now, WKYC put out a conflicting report from the NEOTrans blog that said this: 3 News has determined that there is no merit to the report of the Browns playing any home games outside of Cleveland. We have checked out all sources, including in Columbus, with Ohio State University, and with the Browns. It is believed that the Browns, under the Haslam ownership group, would never consider taking the football team out of Cleveland and forcing the fan base to travel to watch them play home games for any amount of time, let alone for multiple years. This is WKYC. I sure hope this is true. I absolutely hope that the Browns stay in Cleveland, and I don't know how it gets done, but find a way to play at home while rebuilding/remodeling their stadium. This is not a simple adding of the Jumbotron, though, right? I don't think this is a situation where the Browns can sort of stagger their schedule and say, hey, can we play the last 2 games of the season for 2026 on the road so we can get a jump start on construction and even have the first or second game of the next year on the road to really maximize the calendar and get as much time possible to renovate the stadium? No, this is not adding a couple thousand seats or removing some and putting in some new press boxes and some new suites. It sounds like the Browns really want to take this thing down to the core, down to the skeleton of the stadium, and that can't be done, especially throughout the winter of Northeast Ohio for construction from late December to early September. There's just not enough time to get what the Browns reportedly want to get done to their stadium. So if they do stay in Cleveland, I mean, I'm all ears on where they could temporarily play for an NFL team. Canton's not too far, and we'll look at that in just a second. Now, here's what the NEOTrans Blog also added to these rumors. It isn't publicly known yet where the Browns will play, but Columbus is a likely location. The Haslams already have a presence there with their Columbus Crew Major League Soccer club. The Browns would like to regain their fan dominance in Ohio's capital city, taking attention away from the AFC North Division rivals Cincinnati Bengals and Pittsburgh Steelers. We're going to talk more about that in just a moment. But like I said earlier, the NFL draft is not just around the corner. It is basically in our sights. And it is not too late to get the official Cleveland Browns 2023 NFL draft hat. So go to chatsports.com/Browns hat to get yours today. So where are some possible locations if this team does relocate? Because right now we've got a he said, she said situation here, where I had not seen anything definitive from the Cleveland Browns themselves come out and say, we are not entertaining the idea of relocating for 2 to 3 seasons, which I'm going to tell you guys in a moment has been done before. So until the Browns definitively say we are staying put in Cleveland, let's go down this path of what it could look like if they did move, at least for temporarily. Lower.com field, that is where the Crew play, 20,000 seating capacity. They would definitely add some seats, but it could only get up to, 25, 26,000. There's only so many seats you could add to a stadium. The Shoe would be a ton of fun, right? I remember the Browns had their fan fest there almost 20 years ago now, and it was packed. So that could be a very fun option if they do decide to go to Columbus. Tom Benson Stadium, that's where the NFL Pro Football Hall of Fame is in Canton. 23,000. Again, they would definitely add some seats to that. That's closer than Columbus, but still you're talking about playing 2-3 NFL seasons at stadiums under 30,000 in seating capacity, or trying to find a way to split time with Ohio State, which could be done because the Rams did it from 2016 to 2019 with USC. Now, it looked pretty awful on TV, we can admit, right? The split end zone logo where you could still see Trojans in the background and the Rams on top. The attendance was piss poor, but then again, it's the NFL in LA. What can you expect? The Vikings played temporarily at the Golden Gopher Stadium in Minnesota while they were rebuilding their new stadium for 2 seasons. They got by with that. Playing outdoors in Minnesota was god-awful, though. And then I remember the Bears, a while ago now, 2002, they went down to Urbana-Champaign and played at University of Illinois Stadium for 1 season as they remodeled Soldier Field. So we've seen some teams play at collegiate stadiums for 1 season and some for up to 3 seasons. So it could go a long time. We know how construction can be. It's a bitch and it sucks. So if you had to pick a relocation spot, if it gets to that point, because it's not like Jimmy Haslam is some lifelong Northeast Ohio guy, I know he's done a lot of great things for the Browns, but if he sees an opportunity to move this team, well, to move the status of this team, rather, not the actual physical location, and set them up for better success for the next, 30, 40 years, as long as he's the owner, I don't think he would think too long about it. So pick a relocation spot for me. C for Crew Stadium, S for the Shoe, or T for Tom Benson. I don't like any of these options. None of us should, right? But if I had to pick one, if you're going to go to Columbus, you might as well go to the Shoe. I'd rather play there than at an MLS stadium. Now, I prefer them play close to Cleveland, so that would be Canton, right? It's a lesser drive every single Sunday morning for Browns fans, or even into Saturday night. So for that reason, I'm going to go with Canton, Ohio, but I hope they find a way, if they do remodel, play in Cleveland, right? I don't know how that looks or where that is, but just get it done, Jimmy. Now, more from the NEOTrans blog. Sources describe the renovated Browns Stadium as stripping the venue down to and possibly including some of its original load-bearing structure. It will be a top-down rebuilding, said one source. That's why it's more of a rebuild than a renovation. It includes constructing new, wider concourses around the stadium's perimeter that are climate-controlled and offer views of the field. Now, I am not a construction guy. I am no Bob the Builder. But this sounds like they are getting as close as possible to just tearing it down and rebuilding it without actually tearing down the entire stadium. Now, this is what I was talking about earlier. If this is what they want to do, that really can't be done in one off season, especially if you consider the fact that the just logistics of improving the surrounding area. I mean, you got to take into account game day transportation, right? Where is everyone going to park? How is everyone going to get to the stadium? You've got to move 60 to 70,000 people every single Sunday in and out of that stadium. You cannot do that if the surrounding area is completely under construction and you're building it halfway through the year and then stopping for the season. So I'm not quite sure how this would look if they do want to go on this big of a renovation and still play in Cleveland. That is the latest on the Browns stadium rumors. Appreciate everyone for tuning in. I know today was a bit of a longer video, but we had a lot to get through. So thank you so much for hanging out with me. I'll see everyone later.